once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robeanne Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Julian Silvera decided to plead guilty to manslaughter after learning the prosecution would pick up bullets from his gun to the killing of his wife, Melissa.
Our news center has additional details about what led investigators to charge the former lawmaker with killing his wife.
Our news center, the Klansman trial has been delayed again.
Mark Golding pledges to account for funds collected by the PNP for Hurricane Melissa.
So those reports will be prepared and will be made available in the appropriate channel.
The foreign minister raises concerns about sentencing guidelines after man gets 12 years for setting his girlfriend on fire.
In news from the rest of the world, Dominican police say bodies of 4 decapitated women found near border of Haiti.
The US and India have reached a trade deal.
In sports, a Jamaican international was among those on the move on transfer deadline day in English football on Monday.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, former MP for West St. Mary, Julian Silvera, has pleaded guilty to manslaughter in connection with the death of his wife, Melissa. We'll look back at the case so far.
Also in the cover story, what's the difference between the charges of murder and manslaughter? What could possibly influence a defendant to change their plea from not guilty to guilty? We'll hear from attorney at law Pierre Rogers.
In the nation's business at 6:25, at least 2 Jamaicans have signed up for the controversial Enhanced Games, which will allow athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs if they choose during the competition. What are the possible long-lasting implications for athletes? Sports medicine specialist and former doping control officer at JADCO, Dr. Paul Wright, and technical director for Jamaica's Global Athletic Championships teams, Maurice Wilson, will tell us.
We'll take you around the world at 6:45 in Trinidad and Tobago. The UNC-led government suffered a major legislative setback after the Senate voted down a controversial Zoso bill to tackle crime.
And at 7, we debut a new show, The Comments Section, with Shaloy Smikle and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they'll ask, how are you coping with the cold front? Give them your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting at Nationwide Radio and message them on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's a new month, Monday, February 2, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. Nationwide News understands that former MP for West St. Mary, the PNP's Julian Silvera, changed his initial not guilty plea after investigators discovered forensic evidence conclusively linking the bullet that allegedly killed his wife to a gun registered to him. The police theorized that Melissa Silvera was murdered in the couple's Stony Hill home and did not die in her sleep as initially reported. George Davis has the latest on the case that has gripped national attention.
Nationwide News understands that as per protocol, the country's firearm licensing authority, FLA, keeps a bullet that is fired from the gun of each licensed firearm holder. The bullet contains unique marks which corresponded to the firearm issued to each firearm holder. Those unique indentations on the bullet are referred to as bullet striation marks or simply a ballistic fingerprint. Nationwide News understands that Julian Silvera was arrested after his wife's funeral. This after he had initially led family and friends to believe their loved one had died in his sleep. He was taken into custody after an autopsy was performed on Melissa Silvera and a bullet retrieved from her body. Our sources say the suspicions of investigators were initially aroused based on the awkward positioning of Melissa's body at the crime scene. It's understood the position of her body brought into question the explanation that she died peacefully in her sleep. It's also understood she was not shot in the vagina, as was initially widely circulated online. But nationwide sources say the bullet retrieved from Melissa's body had the same unique striation marks which 100% matched the bullet kept by the FLA, which corresponded with the licensed firearm it had issued to Julian Silvera. This piece of compelling evidence led investigators to conclude that Melissa Silvera was killed by a bullet fired from the licensed firearm issued to the man she had vowed to stand by, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do they part. That is how, despite investigators finding that his gun barrel appeared to have been tampered with, former Member of Parliament and influential PNP politician failed to escape being charged in connection with his wife's death. George Davis for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, our news center can confirm that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has not yet indicated whether it will accept the guilty plea offered by former Member of Parliament Julian Silvera in relation to the death of his wife, Melissa. That decision is expected when the matter is called up in court on Tuesday. If the lesser charge of manslaughter is accepted by the prosecution and the presiding judge, Chief Justice Brian Sykes, the former legislator would face a maximum of 20 years in prison. The former PNP lawmaker for Western St. Mary on Monday indicated his willingness to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter in the high-profile case. Silvera's intention was apparently raised when he appeared in the gun court in Kingston on Monday. At the previous court sitting in January, Silvera's attorneys had applied for an independent examination of critical ballistic evidence, resulting in a delay to the proceedings. Silvera is charged with murder, manslaughter, and using a firearm to commit a felony. Melissa Silvera was found dead at the couple's home in Stony Hill, St. Andrew on November 10, 2023. Julian was arrested and charged in January 2024 and has remained in custody since. If the guilty plea is rejected, he faces 50 years to life in prison if convicted of his wife's murder. Silvera is being represented by King's Counsel Peter Champagny and Attorney-at-Law Patrice Riley.
Still in court, the long-anticipated trial involving reputed Klansman gang leader Tesha Miller and 24 co-accused has been delayed again. The matter was expected to start today, Monday, but it will instead start on Wednesday, February 4. Robin Williams was in court. She tells us why.
The delay of the gang trial followed an application for an adjournment by defense attorney John Mark Reed. He argued that ongoing and late disclosures by the prosecution were prejudicing the defendant's ability to properly prepare the case. Reed pointed to the existing practice directions on disclosure, arguing that if those had been properly followed, the court would not be in its current position. He stressed that counsel owes it to clients to fully explain the case against them in order to mount an adequate defense. Reed further called for the Crown to provide an index and disclosure schedule to allow the defense to better understand what material is on file and what is still outstanding. In response, Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Janique Forbes noted that the Crown was in the court's hands while outlining the history of the case, which he said. In response, Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Janique Forbes noted that the Crown was in the court's hands while outlining the history of the case, which he said began in March 2023. According to Forbes, disclosures made since January 12 covered 5 main areas.
And we apologize for that. Now, to other news, opposition leader Mark Golding has committed to disclosing details regarding the funds collected by the People's National Party for Hurricane Melissa through what he describes as appropriate channels. Mr. Golding gave the commitment when asked questions by Nationwide News last Thursday. Siobhan Campbell has that story.
The opposition formally began accepting donations through its own relief portal shortly after the passage of Hurricane Melissa. This collection effort was separate from the government Support Jamaica platform. At the time, Mr. Golding promised that the PNP would ensure full transparency and accountability for the funds raised. He says the party will make good on that promise.
We created a new structure after Melissa with a National Disaster Risk Management Committee within the party. There's a chairman who is Fitz Jackson. There's a projects director who is the treasurer of the party, Senator Keisha Anderson. And part of their mandate is to ensure that there's full accountability and accounting for any relief that is administered through the party. So those reports will be prepared and will be made available in the appropriate channel.
While Mr. Golding did not state what those appropriate channels would be, PNP Deputy General Secretary Nikisha Burchell says this information will be made available through the party's annual filings.
Well, the People's National Party has always been very transparent and open with our financial accounting. Annually, that is published, audited financials, and I'm certain that this will form part of that process. In the meantime, we urge the government to be transparent and candid and to tell the nation what they've done with the millions they've raised in the name of Jamaica to build back constituencies, such as South St. James. We're still waiting to get some of that.
Early in the Hurricane Melissa relief effort, Mr. Golding reasoned that a single platform for donations would be counterproductive. This, he said, was due to those who may be unwilling to provide donations to the government. But to date, no information has been released by the party as to the sums collected or what the donations were ultimately used for. In commenting on his party's collection efforts, Mr. Golding sought to shift accountability to the government. He called on the government to give proper account for billions spent through emergency procurement.
What I would say is that what we have heard is that there have been many billions of dollars of emergency procurement by the government. Emergency procurement means that there is no proper tendering and you don't know whether you're getting value for money. Now, I'm not saying that the circumstances didn't warrant using that procurement methodology. What I am saying is that the accountability for those resources becomes all the more critical, and we don't know what mechanism the government is going to provide to assure the public that those resources have received value for money.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang has commended the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, for what he's describing as the historic reduction in murders recorded last month. January recorded 33 murders, the lowest murder tally recorded in that month in 4 decades. It's also the lowest single-month tally of any month since 2001. In a statement on Monday, the National Security Minister attributed the outcome to sustained intelligence-led policing and strategic policy direction from the ministry. Dana Davey tells us more.
According to police, January's murder tally represents a 55% drop in homicides compared to the 74 murders recorded in the same month last year. The result follows significant crime reductions recorded throughout 2025. Dr. Chang says this reflects continued national progress in strengthening public safety and building the conditions for peace. The minister noted that January's performance builds on what he described as a record-breaking 2025, during which Jamaica achieved a 41% reduction in homicides. This placed the national total below 700 for the first time since 1994. Over the same period, shootings declined by 31%, while overall major crimes fell by 17%. The security minister also pointed to an exceptional 92% clearance rate for murder cases, which he said signals improved investigative capacity and a highly motivated police force. Dr. Chang said the transformation of the JCF has been driven by a focus on proactive, intelligence-led operations. This, he says, was aimed at disrupting gangs and organized criminal networks, removing repeat offenders from communities, and restoring public confidence in law enforcement. While welcoming the gains, the minister cautioned that sustained effort will be required to protect and build on the progress. He reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to continued support for the JCF through policy leadership, institutional reform, and ongoing investment in both enforcement and prevention strategies. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
Thanks, Dana. You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy one pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is...
It's 14 minutes after 5.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is
24 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 21 out west in Montego Bay.
Continuing the news, Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith has taken issue with the 12-year sentence handed to the man who pled guilty to setting his ex-girlfriend Alicia King on fire. The minister says she's not the only one who believes the country's sentencing guidelines are overdue for review. Gray doused King with a flammable liquid before setting her ablaze as she slept at her home in Linstead St. Catherine in August 2023. Last week, he received a 12-year sentence after pleading guilty to the crime. A guilty plea can result in a person receiving as much as a 50% reduction in sentence under the Criminal Justice Administration Act. Reacting to the sentence on social media, the minister says she did not support the section of the law when it was introduced in 2015. She says she still does not support it today. Minister Johnson-Smith says she believes if the discounted sentence is to be used, the starting point should be sufficiently high to have justice served for the victim. She notes that she has expressed these views in public debates as well as in other public appearances.
State Minister of Foreign Affairs Orlando Terrelong has confirmed that the 2026 elections for membership to the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and its youth arm are ready to proceed. This after a pause requested by electoral committees representing the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada following the passage of Hurricane Melissa in October.
As Jamaica transitions from emergency response to rebuilding, members of the diaspora have signaled their readiness to move forward with the elections. The electoral committees have worked diligently to realign the process and are now well positioned to continue with the elections and the important work ahead. This process is not about checking a box or holding a symbolic vote. It is about ensuring that there are systems in place to help channel diaspora support into real, measurable outcomes for Jamaica.
According to the minister, the Diaspora Council and its youth arm are core organs recognized under Jamaica's national diaspora policy and serve as formal mechanisms for strengthening collaboration between Jamaicans at home and abroad. Addressing recent commentary critical of the voting process, the minister noted that diverse views are a healthy part of democratic discourse, but he's cautioning against attempts to undermine or discredit the process.
These councils are therefore not intended to replace or diminish the wide network of independent Jamaican diaspora organizations operating globally, but to serve as organized platforms for engagement that facilitate consistent and structured dialogue. The government will therefore maintain its commitment to a structured, transparent, credible, and inclusive approach to diaspora engagement. While diverse views are healthy for democratic governance, it is deeply concerning when attempts are made to disrupt or discredit a legitimate and transparent process through mischief, misinformation, and propaganda. At a time when our diaspora is united around the shared task of rebuilding Jamaica as one family, calls for disengagement are disingenuous and without merit.
That's Orlando Terrelong, State Minister of Foreign Affairs. Voting will take place online via connectmeja.com from January 28 to February 20, 2026.
Former president of the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, Dr. William Warren Smith, has died. Smith, a native of Jamaica, passed away last Friday. He was 72 years old. Smith joined the CDB in 1985 and was elected the 5th president of the regional finance institution based in Barbados. He served 2 terms as president from 2011 to 2021 before retiring on April 30 that year. Dr. Smith is credited with transforming the CDB, putting in place structural improvements and aligning it more closely with international multilateral agencies. The current CDB president, Daniel Best, hailed Dr. Smith as a mentor and a guide. He says Dr. Smith guided the institution through some of its most challenging moments with steadiness, resolve, and an unwavering belief in what the bank could and should represent for the region.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Authorities in the Dominican Republic made an unusual discovery on Monday after finding the bodies of at least 4 decapitated women. The bodies were found along the border it shares with Haiti. According to the police, the victims are Haitian and were found along the southern part of the border. They add that the Dominican authorities are only investigating one of the 4 deaths, as only one body was found on the Dominican side. The police say investigators believe the women were killed and then thrown into a river that swept the bodies away. They were later deposited on the border.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he agreed to a trade deal with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As part of the deal, the U.S. will lower tariffs on goods from India to 18% from 25%. In a post on social media, Trump said India will reduce trade barriers to 0 and will also stop buying Russian oil. An additional 25% tariff penalty imposed for Delhi's refusal to stop buying Russian oil will be dropped. The announcement comes less than a week after India and the European Union announced a landmark trade deal that capped nearly 2 decades of on and off talks.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Julian Silvera decided to plead guilty to manslaughter after learning the prosecution would link a bullet from his gun to the killing of his wife, Melissa.
Our news center has additional details about what led investigators to charge the former lawmaker with killing his wife.
Klansman trial delayed again.
Mar Golding pledges to account for funds collected by the PNP for hurricane relief.
So those reports will be prepared and will be made available in the appropriate channel.
That's the opposition leader, Mark Golding. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Roby Ann Williams.
You can find the news on our website at rivernews.ai and on the River News app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Music is the soundtrack of our daily lives. It drives business, it entertains, and we are that crucial link between the makers and users of music. We are Jams, representing local and international producers, labels, and performers, providing global coverage in the collection of airplay and public performance royalties for the best of the best in the music industry. We deliver results. We deliver royalties. Find us at jamsonline.com or call 876-978-1010. Jams. We stand up for music rights.
Hurricane Melissa may be over, but the emotional impact can linger. It's normal to feel anxious, sad, or overwhelmed. Talk about your feelings. Stay connected with family and friends and reach out for help if you need it. Call the Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Helpline at 888 New Life. That's 888-639-5433. You can also access the YouMatter chat line by messaging the word support to 876-838-4897 or at YouReport Jamaica. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Now, one of Jamaica's bright young football stars, Dijon Whisper Richards, featured in one of the many moves on the transfer deadline day in English football on Monday. The 20-year-old former Kingston College Manning Cup standout agreed to a loan move from Chelsea, where he's been playing with the academy, to Leicester City in the English Championship. Richards, who joined the Chelsea Academy in 2024, beat the 7 p.m. deadline to get the deal across the line to go over to the King Power Stadium. Leicester, who famously won the Premier League in the 2015-16 season, they're currently lying 16th in the Championship, 20 points of the lead after winning just 10 of their 30 games so far this season. And still with football, Jamaica will need to avoid defeat if they are to make it to the next round of the CONCACAF Under-17 Girls of Football qualifiers in Aruba. The team will be taking on Honduras, and that game is set to get underway at 6 o'clock Jamaica time. That's in another, 35 minutes or so. Honduras are leaders of the group with a perfect 9 points from their 3 games so far, and the Jamaicans are second. They're joint second with Guyana at the minute on 7 points apiece. However, the Guyanese came out Monday morning and crushed St. Vincent and the Grenadines by 14 goals to nil to push their goal difference way up, and so they've leapfrogged the Jamaicans into second. They are on 7 points apiece, but the Guyanese have a 14 to Jamaica plus 7. So Jamaica, once they avoid defeat, they'll get a point and they'll jump over the Guyanese and finish second in the group. But if they are beaten tonight, then the Jamaicans are out. Only the top 2 teams from the 6 groups are assured of a place in the knockout round. Technical Director of Harborview Football Club, Luddy Bernard, has confirmed to Nationwide Sports that defender Gavin Burton is recuperating at home, and this following a head injury sustained during the Ray and Nephew Premier League clash with Tivoli Gardens at Compound on Sunday. Burton was rushed to the Kingston Public Hospital after collapsing unconscious in the 72nd minute of the contest. Of course, I mentioned that Compound. The incident occurred during an aerial challenge with Burton and his teammate Ajani Talbert. Medical personnel responded, and Burton was stretchered off the field and transported to a hospital for further evaluation. Bernard says the player has since been discharged and is being closely monitored at home.
Gavin Burton is fine. He was seen by doctors at the KPH. He did various tests, including an X-ray and a scan. And at the end of the day, they deemed him fit and okay to be discharged. So he's at home, recuperating, and he's on watch for at least the next 48 hours.
That's Luddy Bernard, the technical director over at Harborview. And Talbot, who initially returned to the field after receiving treatment, was eventually substituted 2 minutes later after experiencing lingering effects from the clash. The game ended 2-2. Some cricket now. The Cricket West Indies and Barbadian former West Indies wicketkeeper batsman Shane Dowrich have resolved the legal matters arising from his early return from the West Indies tour of New Zealand in 2020. The issues related to Dowrich's eligibility for selection and the subsequent non-renewal of his central playing contract with Cricket West Indies. Following engagement between the parties, the matter has now been brought to a close. In a joint acknowledgement, both Cricket West Indies and Dowrich confirmed that the legal issues surrounding his early departure from the New Zealand tour have been settled amicably. They further agreed that the terms of the settlement will remain confidential between the parties. Now, the resolution brings an end to a dispute that has lingered since 2020, allowing both Cricket West Indies and Dowrich to move forward. And the West Indies team, they've arrived in India and they'll go straight into action on Wednesday morning, Jamaica time. They'll take on Afghanistan at 4:30 in the morning, as I mentioned, and this will be their only warm-up game before the start of the ICC T20 World Cup on Saturday. Afghanistan beat West Indies 2-1 in a 3-match series only 2 weeks ago. And the West Indies are arriving from South Africa after losing a 3-match series also by 2-1. Meanwhile, coach Darren Sammy says he's banking on his battery of experienced fast bowlers to spearhead the team's assault on a third title. The 2012 and the 16 champions will open their campaign at the World Cup on Saturday morning, Jamaica time. They'll take on Scotland at Eden Gardens.
You look at the fast bowling department. Jaden, has come on in T20 cricket. His role to try and get wickets for us in the power play with his line and length and control. Alzari Joseph was injured, so in big tournaments like that, experience do matter. And Shumar Joseph coming from injury. Coach Ravi Rampal, loves the work he's put in and will continue to put in, and he expects by the time we get to India, these three guys would be in good stead.
And the West Indies are going into the World Cup without a left-arm seamer. And Coach Sammy says it was a very tough decision not to pick one.
It's something you've heard me advocate for, a left-arm seamer in white ball cricket. We had two of them, Blades and Simmons. Somewhere during last year, they both suffered injuries, but it was good to see Blades back at the start of the year, and he's definitely one we're going to continue to work with, and hopefully both he and Blades could develop at a pace that pushes for position. That's
Darren Sammy, coach of the West Indies team. And that will do it for sports. At the minute, we're going to be back, though, with much, much, much more in our major sports cast at 6:05 this evening.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is 5:30.
The National Rural School Bus Program is getting smarter. With your child's student ID card, parents receive real-time notifications every time they board or exit the bus. Each card is unique and securely linked to the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information database. Tap on, tap off, and parents stay updated instantly. So, how do you register? Number 1, visit jamaica-district.mysmartterm.com/bus-portal/registration. Number 2, enter your child's details. Number 3, upload supporting documents. Number 4, submit your application. It's that easy. Safer, smarter, more secure. Register today and ride with peace of mind.
The news cycle doesn't end on Friday. It needs perspective. That's why every Sunday at midday, Nationwide 90 FM presents The Week That Was. A clear, informed review of the top stories that shaped the past week, what really mattered and what lies ahead. No noise, no theatrics, just analysis, context, and clarity. The Week That Was. Sundays at 12 noon with a repeat at 6:30 p.m. Understand the news before the week begins. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Every day brings its own pressure. Noise, bills, stress. The things that weigh us down and affect our well-being. That's why Nationwide 90 FM has created Wellness, a daily program designed to guide your focus on your physical, mental, emotional, and financial health. Real conversations, trusted experts, practical advice. No judgment and no quick fixes. Just meaningful steps towards better living. Wellness, weeknights from 7:30 to 8 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM. Because progress is a process. It happens one day at a time.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multilink. Access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink. 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink. 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. I should say for joining me here on Nationwide at 5, because starting today, listeners, there's going to be an adjustment to Nationwide at 5. It becomes a one-host show, so you will have just one of us, and the show will end at 7 going forward. So it's now 5:35 to 7. At 7, Mahiri and Shaloy will take over with a brand new show, Comments section, where they'll take you through all that's happening in social media, yeah? So, just me today, and going forward, you will have one host up until 7, yeah? So, Jolyon Silvera, the latest in court. Now, Nationwide can report that the former MP for West St. Mary, by the way, I'm Ricardo Brooks, did I tell you that? But you know that already, right? Yes. The PMP's Jolyon Silvera, he changed his initial not guilty plea after investigators discovered forensic evidence conclusively linking the bullet that allegedly killed his wife to a gun that was registered to him. Now, the police theorize, of course, that Melissa Silvera was murdered in the couple's Stony Hill home and that she did not die in her sleep as had been widely reported. George Davis gives us the latest on this case that has gripped national attention.
Nationwide News understands that as per protocol, the country's Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, keeps a bullet that is fired from the gun of each licensed firearm holder. The bullet contains unique marks which correspond to the firearm issued to each firearm holder. Those unique indentations on the bullet are referred to as bullet striation marks or simply a ballistic fingerprint. Nationwide News understands that Jolyon Silvera was arrested after his wife's funeral. This after he had initially led family and friends to believe their loved one had died in his sleep. He was taken into custody after an autopsy was performed on Melissa Silvera and the bullet retrieved from her body. Our sources say the suspicions of investigators were initially aroused based on the awkward positioning of Melissa's body at the crime scene. It's understood the position of her body brought into question the explanation that she died peacefully in her sleep. It's also understood she was not shot in the vagina, as was initially widely circulated online. But nationwide sources say the bullet retrieved from Melissa's body had the same unique striation marks which 100% matched the bullet kept by the FLA, which corresponded with the licensed firearm it had issued to Jolyon Silvera. This piece of compelling evidence led investigators to conclude that Melissa Silvera was killed by a bullet fired from the licensed firearm issued to the man she had vowed to stand by, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do they part. That is how, despite investigators finding that his gun barrel appeared to have been tampered with, former Member of Parliament and influential PNP politician failed to escape being charged in connection with his wife's death. George Davis for Nationwide News.
And as you can imagine, that's been a significant development. Nationwide, of course, broke the story earlier today. Now, our news center can confirm that the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions has not yet indicated whether it will accept the guilty plea offered by the former Member of Parliament. And that's important because the judge and the prosecution must accept the plea. There must be some basis in law as to why they'll not continue with the murder charge on the indictment. And just to remind you that Mr. Silvera was initially charged with murder, manslaughter, and using a firearm to commit a felony. So what does it mean if the plea is accepted? Well, We checked, and manslaughter carries a minimum sentence of about 3 years and a maximum sentence of 20 years. So if the guilty plea were to be accepted, and we expect that that decision could come as soon as tomorrow, because the matter will be called up again in court tomorrow, the DPP's decision, if she accepts the guilty plea, then Mr. Silvera is looking at a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 20 years. However, if the plea were rejected by the DPP or by the presiding judge, and to remind you who is presiding, the Chief Justice, Brian Sykes, then of course murder, as you know, in Jamaica now carries a mandatory minimum of 50 years. So it'd be 50 years to life that Mr. Silvera would face if the manslaughter guilty plea is rejected, a murder trial ensues, and then the jury, if the jury finds him guilty, it would be looking at 50 years to life. Yeah, so we're gonna see what happens tomorrow when the matter is called up. You'll recall, of course, that the media still isn't allowed inside, so we have to be relying on what's reported out to us by the prosecution and the defense. Now, Mr. Silvera apparently raised the fact that he would plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter when he appeared in the gun court this morning. And at the previous court sitting in January, Silvera's attorneys had applied for an independent examination of critical ballistic evidence, resulting in a delay in the proceedings. Now, as you heard from the report from George Davis, that ballistic evidence could relate to that single bullet that's kept by the FLA, and the markings contained on that bullet, and what it indicates as to where or what gun would have fired the bullets that were found inside Mrs. Silvera's body. Critically, though, what we're reporting is that the positioning of the body would have been what indicated first aroused suspicion that she did not die peacefully in her sleep. And you'd recall how that was widely circulated. You recall there were several senior members of the People's National Party who had expressed condolences. There were people who were saying, who had repeated what turns out now to be, as the investigators have said, a lie, that she died peacefully in her sleep. The positioning of her body raised suspicions, and very important, we are understanding that there is no truth to the widely circulated rumor that Miss Silvera had been shot in the vagina. We're told that's not true. That's what our sources are saying. Yeah. Of course, Silvera is being represented by King's Counsel Peter Champagny and Attorney at Law Patrice Riley. But I want to take you also, listeners, through the timeline of what took us to this morning when we got news that the former lawmaker would enter a plea of guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. So you'd recall that on November 10, 2023, Melissa Silvera was reported to have died in her sleep. That's the first time we heard that. It was shocking. A lot of people were expressing, just outpouring of grief. You recall that Mr. Silvera, upon going to his wife's funeral, he was a picture of grief, crying. December 16, 2023, that's when the upgrade came. It was upgraded to a murder probe. The police launched a murder probe into the death of Mrs. Silvera. And of course, we had heard, as I said, on November 10 that she died in her sleep. And we reported on December 16 that had been upgraded to murder. Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime at the time, Fitz Bailey, confirmed that news to our news center that the probe was underway. And there was the report that original investigators were also under scrutiny as to how they conducted that initial preliminary investigation, the preliminary assessment. Come December 18, 2023 now, Julian's firearm was seized. And we reported that the licensed firearm, and if you're paying attention to what we reported today, this becomes important, because the licensed firearm belonging to the former lawmaker was seized by the police, and that gun was seized as the police intensified the probe into the suspected murder of his wife. He was interrogated by the police at the JCS Major Investigation Division, MID, for several hours that Friday evening. This is December 18, 2023 now, and he was questioned well into the hours of the Saturday morning, the next day. and that gun had been seized for ballistics testing. Come December 20, 2023 now, he was still being questioned by detectives. And on December 21, 2023, the police came out and said that there was no corruption, that there was no evidence of corruption in the conduct of the policeman who was the first responder at the house, because at the time there was all kinds of information circulating as to what might have happened and what did people see and why wasn't there a clear indication that murder had been committed or something untoward. Well, we're telling you now that suspicions were first aroused because of the positioning of her body. Yeah? Here's what DCP Bailey said at the time.
We're looking at the entire scenario. We have not come to any conclusion. I think there might be some, what I consider to be inexperience, and as a result of that, some things are overlooked. I heard a lot of statements being made, but the truth is, so far, we haven't seen any evidence of corruption as is reported in social media. It's one of those challenging investigations, but I think the men and women have the capacity and the skills and the competence, and we will use all the resources that we have to ensure that there is some level of closure and justice is served in this case. It's a very brutal act. We are up to the task, and we had a review just about 2 days ago.
That's former Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime, DCP Bailey. He said at the time that it was not unusual for only one member of the JCF to process a death scene.
I heard discussion about whether or not one person should go on the scene, but if you have two persons working at any station, you can't leave the station unmanned. The sergeant actually took the decision, and it's a sudden death that he went to investigate. It was not any hostile situation. It's not abnormal, really.
That's former Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP Fitz Bailey. Now, on January 12, 2024, Melissa was laid to rest. That funeral happening at the St. Andrew Parish Church in Halfway Tree. Yeah, she was 42 years old, and there were a lot of tributes. And as I said, you would recall that her husband, Jolyon Silvera, was seated with the family. He was a picture of grief, really seeming torn up by the pictures that we saw. Cynthia Silvera did the remembrance on behalf of her son, Jolyon Silvera. Here's what she said.
She was a force of nature, a nation builder in her own right, whose ambitions were deeply rooted in a desire to create a brighter future for our family and country. As a wife and mother, Melissa was unparalleled. Her dedication knew no bounds, and she approached parenthood with an unwavering commitment. From the smallest milestones to significant life events, she stood by our sons, Adam, Aidan, Justin and Axel, with a radiance of pride and joy.
Yeah, so that's Catherine Silvera, the mother of Jolyon Silvera. And at that time, during that tribute, Jolyon Silvera was seated in the front row of the church with the three boys he shared with Melissa. At one point, he was seen tears flowing freely. You'd recall, you've seen the pictures. He was holding the youngest child in his arms. And Mrs. Silvera was laid to rest in the cemetery there at St. Andrew Parish Church. We move now to January 19, 2024, when Jolyon was picked up by the police, and then that same day, he was charged with the murder of his wife, Melissa. DCP Bailey announced that charge.
As the police continue its investigation in the murder of Melissa Silvera on Friday, the 19th of January 2024, after a question and answer session at the Major Investigation Division Office, about 12 midday, Jolyon Silvera, age 52 years old, land developer of 2A Diamond Court, Stony Hill, St. Andrew, was formally charged by the police, that is the Major Investigation Division, for the murder of his wife, Melissa Silvera. The investigation continues as we believe that there are other charges that will be laid against Mr. Silvera.
And of course, other charges were laid. Manslaughter, using a firearm to commit a felony. Mr. Silvera was denied bail at least twice. yeah, at least twice. And so the trial is now set to get underway. And this morning in court, he indicated he is prepared to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. Yeah? We're going to take a break. And after the break, we'll bring you the distinction. What's the distinction? Because people are asking, what's the distinction between murder and manslaughter?
Order Pizza Hut online at pizzahutjamaica.com or through WhatsApp at 876-837-4488. Pizza Hut, now that's delivery. The time by Pizza Hut is...
It's 5:49.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multi-Link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-Link?
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Back with you on Nationwide at 5. I'm Ricardo Brooks, and we've been giving you the timeline of what brought us to what we heard out of the gun court in downtown Kingston this morning. If you haven't heard, the former Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary, Julian Silvera, has indicated that he is prepared to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter in relation to the shooting death of his wife, Melissa. And I've just brought you up to speed, giving you the timeline, how we got to this morning. But there is a matter that people are asking about: murder versus manslaughter. What's the legal distinction? To assist us in that effort, I'm pleased to be joined by King's Counsel Pierre Rogers. Good afternoon, Casey.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon to yourself and to your listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us. And let me just clarify something. Under Jamaican law, manslaughter, the maximum penalty, what is that under law?
So you have life, literally life imprisonment as the upper limit that is expressed on the books.
Mm-hmm.
In most instances, though, the courts don't hand down a sentence of life for manslaughter. There's a normal range, and that range depends on the kind of manslaughter that is involved, because there are, in fact, several different types. There's manslaughter born out of, there's motor manslaughter, a common type. There is manslaughter which is grounded in diminished responsibility. There's manslaughter which is grounded in provocation. So it really depends, literally, on what it is that we're facing.
And in the... Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought?
No, forgive me. I'm saying it literally depends on the kind of matter that we're treating within court.
Right. And in the... Based on the range that has been used over the years, the upper limit would be about where?
So recently there was a sentence handed down for 12 years in relation to an incident where a gentleman threw oil or gas on his girlfriend and lit her, causing her death. I think that was in Linstead sometime in 2023. That is about normal. The range, though, the starting point would be about 7. And it would go up to 15 or 20, depending on the circumstances. Well, 15.
And if you are referring to the case of Alicia King, she did not die. So
she did not die.
She didn't, right. All right.
Forgive me.
Yeah. So the legal distinction now between murder and manslaughter, what is that distinction?
So the starting point there would be a definition of murder, which is the unlawful taking of life. where unlawful speaks to no justifiable excuse at the hands of the accused person, where that person has the intention, the all-important specific intention to either cause death or grievous bodily harm. Where it is that the specific intention is not made out, then, and this is admittedly a simplified version of the law, but where the specific intention is not made out, but the actus reus and the death, the act causing the death and the death are in fact occurring, then you would have manslaughter made out.
All right. Walk with me now. So let's say I'm in an argument. There is some kind of provocation and I react and I strike the person dies. Can I be charged with murder?
You can be charged with murder, but the truth is that in court, if the provocation is immediate and of such a nature that it satisfies both the subjective and objective tests, then the judge would be bound to leave provocation to the jury, which would mean that it would be open to them to come back with a verdict of manslaughter.
So is it fair then to say manslaughter is always available as an alternative to murder where somebody dies?
Not true. Tell me
why it would not and how it would be.
For manslaughter to be left to the jury, there needs to be an evidential basis. There needs to be something which satisfies the law in relation to manslaughter. And what that would mean would be literally something immediate which causes the temporary loss of control. And this is coming from the common law.
Yes.
Which says that, which acknowledges that we are not all angels. We can't all exert the same amount of self-control that is required at all times in a civilized society. Because the law understands that kind of a frailty. What it says in clear terms is that if those ingredients are present in the narrative or in the evidence leading up to the murder, then and only then should the option of manslaughter be left open to the jury.
All right. Without speaking to any specific case now, in an instance where a plea may be made, how does the judge and the prosecution determine whether to accept or deny?
It literally is a function of the evidence or the material that forms the body of the evidence, which is to be led. Because remember, as at this point in time, what you have are statements.
Yes.
And forensic reports, etc. If it is that you are at a place where that material gives rise to any inference that provocation is a live issue, then it ought to be left or alternatively considered as an option by way of a plea.
And if the prosecutor says yes and the judge says no, what happens in a scenario like that?
I mean, the truth is that prosecution is the realm of the prosecutor. And ultimately it would be their decision. However, I should say to you that in the ordinary course of things, prosecutors tend to be harder than even judges. I would find it hard to contemplate a situation where a prosecutor comes back and says yes and the judge says no.
So the judge usually accepts the judgment of the prosecutor?
Because it is their purview, quite so.
Yeah. And I wanted to get your view as well, Casey, on this matter of the gun court and how it treats access to the media. We've been asking attorneys as to whether they think that the prohibition, the blanket prohibition, should be lifted, and if not, why should it be maintained? What's your view?
So the truth is that the gun court is a special creature. And by gun court, we're speaking about the gun court sitting across all three divisions, because you have the gun court at the parish court level where prima facie cases are determined. You have the gun court where summary matters are tried involving the use of the firearm or the presence of the firearm. And you have the gun court division of both of them are gun court division of the circuit courts. But whereas circuit court sits with that jury involving the use of a gun, that too is a manifestation of the gun court itself. The legislation which created it goes back decades, and it was literally created to strike and inspire fear in the hearts of the criminals. This is perhaps one of the only sets of courts that is by definition in camera. Mm-hmm. In the olden days, judges used to dress in a particular way designed to strike fear, the red robe. I believe that all of this served a function, and the truth is it may well be serving a function now. As to whether you want to remove it entirely, that to my mind is going to take some sort of a concerted decision amongst the various lawmakers as well as amongst the judges. It wasn't put there without reason.
Yeah.
If you're going to move it, let us have a good reason.
Access to justice, I mean transparency, access to the courts, no, not good enough reasons?
No, I'm not for a moment suggesting that it's not.
Yeah.
I'm saying it is a discussion that needs to be had. Which one will be accorded more weight than the other really is going to be dependent on a wide cross-section of views.
Yeah.
What I do not want is for anybody to form the view that it was a restriction which was placed willy-nilly. It literally did serve its purpose.
Which would be, for example, to protect witnesses, for example.
Precisely. Yeah. Strike fear in the hearts of the wrongdoers. Protect witnesses. And that perhaps is the primary rule or the primary basis.
Yeah. All right. Casey, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, kind sir.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Important information there. As you heard from the King's Counsel, it is unlikely that if a prosecutor accepts a guilty plea, that the judge would not agree. Yeah? So I suppose all eyes now will be on the gun court. Claudette Thompson, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the decision ultimately is hers as to whether she will accept this plea to the lesser charge on the indictment of manslaughter. It's 6:01. That's the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6:02.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. The headlines at 6. I'm Norige Banton. Nationwide News understands that former MP for West St. Mary, the PNP's Julian Silvera, changed his initial not guilty plea after investigators discovered forensic evidence conclusively linking the bullet that allegedly killed his wife to a gun registered to him. The police theorized that Melissa Silvera was murdered in the couple's Stony Hill St. Andrew home and did not die in her sleep as initially reported. Nationwide News understands that as per protocol, the country's Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, keeps a bullet that is fired from the gun of each licensed firearm holder. The bullet contains unique marks which correspond to the firearm issued to each firearm holder. Those unique indentations on the bullet are referred to as bullet striation marks or simply a ballistic fingerprint. Nationwide News understands that Julian Silvera was arrested after his wife's funeral after he had initially led family and friends to believe their loved one died in her sleep. He was taken into custody after an autopsy was performed on Melissa Silvera and a bullet retrieved from her body. Our sources say the suspicions of investigators were initially aroused based on the awkward positioning of Melissa's body at the scene. It's understood the position of her body brought into question the explanation that she died peacefully in her sleep. It's also understood that she was not shot in the vagina, as was initially widely circulated online. But Nationwide sources say the bullet retrieved from Melissa's body had the same unique marks, which 100% matched the bullet kept by the FLA, which corresponded with the licensed firearm it had issued to Julian Silvera. Meanwhile, our news center can confirm that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has not yet indicated whether it will accept the guilty plea offered by former MP Julian Silvera in relation to the death of his wife Melissa. That decision is expected when the matter is called up in court on Tuesday. If the lesser charge of manslaughter is accepted by the prosecution and the presiding judge, Chief Justice Brian Sykes, the former legislator would face a maximum of 20 years in prison. The former PNP lawmaker for Western St. Mary on Monday indicated his willingness to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. Silvera's intention was apparently raised when he appeared in the gun court in Kingston on Monday. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang has commended the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, for what he's describing as the historic reduction in murders recorded last month. January recorded 33 murders. That's the lowest murder tally recorded in that month in 4 decades. It's also the lowest single tally of any month since 2001. In a statement on Monday, the National Security Minister attributed the outcome to sustained intelligence-led policing and strategic policy direction from the ministry. According to the police, January's murder tally represents a 55% drop in homicides compared to the 74 murders recorded in the same month last year. The result follows significant crime reductions recorded throughout 2025. Dr. Chang says this reflects continued national progress in strengthening public safety and building the conditions for peace. The minister noted that January's performance builds on what he described as a record-breaking 2025, during which Jamaica achieved a 41% reduction in homicides. Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith has taken issue with the 12-year sentence handed to the man found guilty of setting his ex-girlfriend, Alicia King, on fire. Antoine Badfowl Gray doused King with a flammable liquid before setting her ablaze as she slept at her home in Linstead, St. Catherine in August 2023. Last week, Gray received a 12-year sentence after pleading guilty to the crime. Minister Johnson-Smith says she's not the only one who believes the country's sentencing guidelines are overdue for review. A guilty plea can result in a person receiving as much as a 50% reduction in sentence under the Criminal Justice Administration Act. Reacting to the sentence on social media, Minister Johnson-Smith says she did not support the section of the law when it was introduced in 2015. She adds that she still does not support it today. Minister Johnson-Smith says she believes if the discounted sentence is to be used, the starting point should be sufficiently high to still have justice served for the victim. She notes that she has expressed these views in public in Senate debates as well as in other public appearances. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay. Banton Sports is next.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-371-4-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. One of Jamaica's bright young football stars, Dejan Whisper Richards. He featured in one of the many moves on the transfer deadline day. In English football on Monday, the 20-year-old former Kingston College Manning Cup standout agreed to a loan deal from Chelsea, where he'd been playing with the academy, to Leicester City in the English Championship. Richards, who joined the Chelsea Academy in 2024, beat the 7 p.m. deadline to get the deal across the line to go to the King Power Stadium. Leicester, who famously won the Premier League in the 2015-16 season, are currently lying 16th in the Championship. 20 points of the lead, and this after winning just 10 of their 30 games played so far this season. Jamaica will need to avoid defeat against Honduras if they are to make it to the next round of the CONCACAF Under-17 Girls Qualifiers. The two are meeting in a crucial Group D clash on Monday. It should have kicked off at 6 o'clock, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you an update before we get off. Honduras are leaders of the group. They are perfect 9 points from their 3 games so far. The Jamaicans are second. They share second with Guyana. However, the Guyanese on Monday morning thrashed St. Vincent and the Grenadines by 14 goals to nil to push up their goal difference. In fact, at the minute, they are plus 14 to Jamaica's plus 7, which is why Jamaica can get a draw and qualify. But once they're beaten tonight, they're out of the competition. And of course, only the top 2 teams from the 6 groups are assured of a spot in the knockout round. Technical Director of Harbourview Football Club, Luddy Bernard, has confirmed that the defender, Gavin Burton, is recuperating at home following a head injury sustained during the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League clash with Tivoli Gardens at the compound on Sunday. Burton was rushed to the Kingston Public Hospital after collapsing unconscious during the 72nd minute of the game. The incident occurred during an aerial challenge in which Burton collided with his teammate Johnny Talbot. Medical personnel responded and Burton was stretchered off the field and transported to the hospital for further evaluation. Bernard says the player has since been discharged, but he's been closely monitored at home.
Gavin Burton is fine. He was seen by doctors at the KPH. He did various tests, including an X-ray and a scan. And at the end of the day, they deemed him fit and okay to be discharged. So he's at home, recuperating, and he's on watch for at least the next 48 hours.
That's Ludley Bernard, the Technical Director of Harbourview Football Club. And Talbot, who initially returned to the field after receiving treatment, was eventually substituted 2 minutes later after experiencing lingering effects of the clash. The game, by the way, ended in a 2-all draw. Cricket, West Indies and Barbadian wicketkeeper batsman Shane Dowich have resolved the legal matters arising from his early return from the West Indies tour of New Zealand in 2020. The issues related to Dowich's eligibility for selection and the subsequent non-renewal of his central playing contract. Following engagement between the parties, the matter has now been closed. In a joint acknowledgement, both Cricket West Indies and Dulwich confirmed that the legal issues surrounding the early departure from the New Zealand tour have been settled amicably. They further agreed that the terms of the settlement will remain confidential between the two parties. The resolution brings an end to a dispute that had lingered since 2020, allowing both Cricket West Indies and Dulwich to move forward. And the West Indies team, they've arrived in India and they'll go straight into action on Wednesday morning, Jamaica time at 4 o'clock. They'll take on Afghanistan in their lone warm-up game before the start of the ICC T20 World Cup, which bowls off on Saturday in India. Afghanistan beat the West Indies 2-1 in a recent three-match series, in fact, just 2 weeks ago. And the West Indies, they're coming fresh off a 2-1 defeat against South Africa just a couple of days ago. And Coach Sammy says he's banking on his battery of experience fast bowlers to spearhead the assault on what would be a third world title. The West Indies won the title in 2015 and 16, in fact 2012 and 16, and they'll open their campaign on Saturday. They take on Scotland at Eden Gardens in Kolkata.
You look at the fast bowling department. Jaden, has come on in T20 cricket. His role to try and get wickets first in the power play with his line and length and control. Alzari Joseph was injured, so in big tournaments like that, experience do matter. And Shumar Joseph coming from injury. Coach Ravi Rampal, loves the work he's put in and will continue to put in, and he expects by the time we get to India, these three guys would be in good stead.
And the West Indies are going into the World Cup without a left-arm seamer, and Sammy says that was a tough decision to leave one out.
It's something you've heard me advocate for, a left-arm seamer in white ball cricket. We had two of them, Blades and Simmons. Somewhere during last year, they both suffered injuries, but it was good to see Blades back at the start of the year, and he's definitely one we're going to continue to work with, and hopefully both he and Blades could develop at a pace that pushes for position.
I see West Indies all-format coach Darren Sammy. Assistant coaches Warren Tucker of Mona High and Olivia Marshall of Wolmer's Girls have expressed satisfaction with the performances of their team at the Ted Dwyer Classic and Pentathlon Challenge at the Stadium East over the weekend. Both coaches agreed that while strong performances were encouraging, the primary focus remains qualification to the Corporate Area Championships and ultimately the big one, the Boys and Girls Championships next month. Tucker says he was impressed with the overall showing from his team, noting that several athletes delivered performances that showed progress at this stage of the season. All right, Marshall described the meet as an important part of her team's participation rather than a final assessment. And of course, we're looking forward to introducing more coaches to you as we look ahead to the Boys and Girls Championships and of course the Corporate Area Championships, which come up just about a week or so before the big dance at the National Stadium. Host White Speedo Swim Club emphatically retained the Carl Dollhouse Memorial Invitational title after a dominant showing at the stadium pool at the weekend. And you know who was there? Alex Swibby.
Swimming in front of a home crowd, White Speedos topped every major category, finishing well clear of the field in both age group and the Masters competition. In the combined team scores, age group division, White Speedos piled up an impressive 806.5 points, more than 280 points ahead of second place Tornado Swim Club, who finished with 524. Swimmers Aquatic Swim Club rounded out the top three on 338 points. The hosts were just as commanding in the Masters division, again finishing first with 121 points, nearly doubling Tornado's 66. White Speedo's depth was on full display across the gender divisions. They captured the women's age group title with 356.5 points and followed up with another win in the men's age group division, scoring 346 points ahead of Sharks and Tornadoes. In Masters competition, White Speedos also claimed the men's Masters title with 66 points while finishing runners-up in the women's category. With consistent podium finishes across all events, The hosts underline their dominance and ensure the Caldwell House Memorial Trophy stays right where it belongs, at home with Y Speedo Swim Club. Alex Swaby reporting for Nationwide Sports.
Thank you very much, Alex Swaby. Some news on tennis. Spanish tennis ace Carlos Alcaraz, at the age of 22, became the youngest player to complete the tennis Grand Slam. He got the better of the Serbian veteran Novak Djokovic, 2-6, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5 in the Australian Open men's singles final on centre court in Melbourne on Sunday. The world's number one ranked player explained that after losing the first set, he had to challenge his playing style in order to top Djokovic.
In the second set, I think the first game he made a few easy mistakes that he hadn't had in the first set. So that gave me a lot of calm, or I just trust and I believe that the match could change a little bit if I stay there mentally strong or mentally positive, trying to be solid. I just changed a little bit that it wasn't or it didn't work in the first set. So I changed a little bit, and I think that helped a lot to get into the match again and that feel more comfortable.
And Alcaraz says he's still getting used to being called great at the age of 22.
You know, the bad part of tennis, it is we have tournaments week after week after week, and sometimes you don't realize what you've been doing lately because, you know, once you finish a tournament, you got to be prepared, or your mind is about, going to the next tournament. So sometimes you don't stop yourself and think about what you're doing. So what I've learned, this year is about appreciate and enjoy every single second.
That's Carlos Alcaraz of Spain. And he didn't win a Grand Slam, but the youngest player to win all 4 of the Grand Slams at the same time. And of course, an update coming out of Aruba. The Jamaica team and Honduras, they're locked goalless after 20 minutes of that crunch Group D game that the Jamaicans must avoid defeat tonight if they are to get into the next round of the qualifiers over there in Aruba. So it's goalless at the moment, so it's falling into place for Jamaica so far, and the final score we'll give you in the morning sports on Tuesday during news at 6 as well. We'll give you the final score on the Arnett Gardens Premier League game, which is kicking off at 7 o'clock at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex a little later on from now, just about 40 minutes from now. That's sports though for this evening.
Jamaica Post is committed to being your preferred logistics partner. Enjoy the convenience of 3 to 5 days for international shipments at competitive rates and next business day delivery for local packages. Take advantage of our fast, reliable and ever-evolving services: Zip Mail, Click and Ship, Fast Track, EMS, Parcel Service, Registered Mail, Corporate Mail Service, and Private Letterbox. Access customer service support and track packages online. Visit our post offices island-wide and premium service centers at select locations. For more information, go to jamaicapost.gov.jm. Conditions apply.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multi-Link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-Link?
I only have Hanes for you.
For underwear that feels so good against your skin, it's got to be Hanes. Look and feel your best. Trend right in stylish Hanes undershirts, V and crew necks and A-shirts, absorbent Hanes socks, and high-quality Comfort Flex Hanes boxer briefs. All 100% cotton. Get the cool all-day comfort you deserve with Hanes quality underwear.
Hanes, you can't go wrong with a brand so strong.
I only have Hanes for you.
Every day brings its own pressure. Noise, bills, stress. The things
things that weigh us down and affect our well-being. That's why Nationwide 90 FM has created Wellness, a daily program designed to guide your focus on your physical, mental, emotional, and financial health. Real conversations, trusted experts, practical advice. No judgment and no quick fixes. Just meaningful steps towards better living. Wellness, weeknights from 7:30 to 8 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM. Because progress is a process. It happens one day at a time.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Noragay Banton, weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales at nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Minutes after 6. You're tuned into Nationwide at 5. I'm Ricardo Brooks, and we're going to turn our attention now to the Enhanced Games because there are concerns about the implications for athletes. At least 2 Jamaicans have signed up for the controversial games. Sprinters Shakoria Wallace and Danae McFarlane recently committed to the inaugural staging of the event in Las Vegas later this year. The Enhanced Games describe themselves as an elite sports competition and performance products company. The games say they will allow athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs if they choose during the competition. This is one of the features that has drawn criticism from major sporting organizations. Sports Minister Olivia Grange recently said Jamaica cannot endorse the hosting of or participation in the games. She says the concept of the Enhanced Games runs counter to Jamaica's values as a nation committed to clean sport and as signatories to the International Convention Against Doping in Sport and the World Anti-Doping Agency Code. And she stressed that clean sports is not just a regulatory issue, but a reflection of Jamaica's national character. So, what are the possible long-lasting implications for the athletes? For that discussion, we'll be joined by sports medicine specialist and former doping control officer at the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, Dr. Paul Wright, and the technical director for Jamaica's Global Athletic Championship teams, Maurice Wilson. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Wright, let me start by asking, what's the thinking behind a competition like this? Why did they think it was even necessary at all?
Every athlete looks for the edge, something that will give them an edge against their opponents. Some athletes change their coach, some athletes change the equipment, some athletes change the diet, but everybody is looking for an edge. And what some people have found out is that there are certain regulations, certain rules that you break and you will get that edge. And then you can take medicine. Medicine got involved in sports because we noticed in sports that people were having adverse effects of things that they were taking to improve their performance. And it was at the Tour de France when it was stated openly that you couldn't compete in the Tour de France unless you took a drug. Well, cyclists started dying, and that is when WADA stepped in and we started anti-doping. And the anti-doping was in two phases. One, it was against the interest of sport, and two, it was against the long-term effects of the drug on the athlete. And that is what we are looking at now with the enhanced games, because nobody will know the long-term effects of these drugs that these people are taking, but we know that in the short term, they can have problems with their blood pressure, problems with their skin, problems with their muscles. There's a whole host of things that can go wrong. And one of the things about the enhanced games that is even more disturbing is that they have announced that they have a cadre of specialists who will be there monitoring these athletes at every stage of the game. And what they're doing is getting information. Yes. This information will be published later to show the effects of these drugs on these people in the years to come, 4 or 5 years to come. So what we're looking at is people signing up as guinea pigs. That is going to help these doctors in there to now formulate ways in which they can explain to other people that this is wrong. When we all know that if you use performance-enhancing drugs in sports, you can affect your heart, you can affect your mental ability to comprehend what is going on. It can affect your muscle tone, it can affect everything. And it is just wrong. And I want to commend Minister Grange for making it plain that is against the whole character of sports, and Jamaica should not be involved.
Hold it there for us. We're talking about the enhanced games with Dr. Paul Wright and Maurice Wilson. After the break, we'll bring in Maurice.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:31.
The Nationwide family. Something big is on the way. More access, more exclusives, more of what you've been asking for. Coming soon.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
Music is the soundtrack of our daily lives. It drives business. It entertains. And we are that crucial link between the makers and users of music. We are Jams, representing local and international producers, labels, and performers, providing global coverage in the collection of airplay and public performance royalties for the best of the best in the music industry. We deliver results. We deliver royalties. Find us at jamsonline.com or call 876-978-1010. Jams. We stand up for music rights.
Following the passage of Hurricane Melissa,
Jamaicans are urged to take precautions to prevent leptospirosis, a disease spread through contact with water, soil, or food contaminated by the urine of infected animals. Remember, avoid swimming, wading, or playing in floodwaters or any water that may have resulted from flooding. Avoid consuming food that may have been contaminated with floodwater or animal urine. Wear protective clothing and footwear when working or walking in areas that may be contaminated. And visit the nearest health center immediately if you experience fever, chills, muscle pain, or other flu-like symptoms. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
You think you're getting the full nationwide experience now? You just wait. The Family Club is coming soon.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Back with you on Nationwide at 5. We're on the final lap, and just to remind you, you just heard from Shaloy. The comment section comes at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock with Shaloy and Mahiri. You're gonna want to stick and stay for that. I saw somebody in the YouTube chat asking me what happened to Public Opinion. So Public Opinion is now rolled into that show, the comment section. So you want to stick and stay for that. I have with me Dr. Paul Wright and Maurice Wilson. We're discussing this matter of the enhanced games. And before the break, Dr. Wright outlined all the reasons, all the health risks to the athletes, and also endorsing the idea that such a game, such a competition is, it runs counter, essentially, to the ethos of our sporting discipline here in Jamaica. Maurice Wilson, why then would athletes consider it? I mean, Dr. Wright talked about an edge, but once you go over into the enhanced games, can you then come back into the regular games? How does that work?
Well, I am not too sure of the rules in relation to coming back, but I'm almost sure that that is not possible. And if it was even possible, it should not be allowed. First of all, I am just so alarmed about what is happening, and I'm wondering what's next, because we continue to push the button. We're not paying attention to the health of our athletes. And if you would have noticed in the media, when it was announced that two Jamaicans are the first Jamaican, it became a big headliner. And so it speaks to how we are perceived, and it is important that none of our top athletes get involved in this situation. I hear persons talking about finance. But how far are we going to push the button? Where do our principles lie? We do not, and I will repeat this, based on my understanding, and I think that could have the data. But Jamaicans, we really don't have a drug culture per se. We really don't have majority of our athletes getting involved in all the different drugs, whether legally or illegally, at the high school level, and then move it on to the senior level, or even at the collegiate level. And so for us now for this diversion, this is how I call it, because what is happening here, it is as if you are giving the athletes an option through money, which is incorrect, immoral, unethical. And so I am just hoping that all athletes will understand and recognize that we would have seen where persons would have broken protocol in the 80s in a different sport. And what has happened since then? That money would have been finished, if I should say it. And so it is important that we stand on certain principles. But not only that, track and field is our most successful sport.
By far.
We are recognized not only in terms of the sport itself, but the sport has brought secondary recognition to other areas in Jamaica. And so we have a responsibility to our country, not only to ourselves, but to our country, to make sure that we maintain the reputation of our athletes who have gone before us. Because think of all the greats. Sometimes we do not recognize that the persons we are seeing now are not necessarily the persons who made the sport great from day one. There were persons like the great
the great Herb McKinley, and so on. That's Billy Miller. All these persons, they would have created a platform for the modern day athlete to launch off. So we cannot afford to sully their reputation by being associated, and then there's a perception. So I am totally against this. I don't know what is happening. The world is going backward in reverse, and I'm hoping that at some point people will recognize, as Doc would have said, and I enhance and I support what he would have said, also the minister, that really what is happening, it's just an experiment taking place.
Yes.
So if persons think that they want to make the choice for money, for their bodies to become experimental at some point in time, then I would encourage them not to take that route.
Dr. Wright, Maurice makes a valid point just now about the possible perception risks as to how it might create a cloud over the entire track and field product of Jamaica. Do you share that concern?
Let me, I do. I share that concern, but I want to remind everybody of a poll that was done in the South Korea Olympic years ago, where a questionnaire was sent to the athletes. And this is what the questionnaire said. If we could guarantee you an Olympic gold medal by giving you a substance, but could not guarantee your life in 4 years, would you take the substance? 68% of the participants in that poll said yes. So we have to understand the drive that these athletes have in order to be glory and the fame and the financial benefit that goes around with the Olympic gold medal, because you get endorsements and so on. And it is the money, I think, that is the dangling in front of these people, and not knowing that they are just becoming rats, as it was, in an experiment to get information about the long-term effect of these drugs, because all of them in this sport are going to have to declare what they're on. They're going to go through blood tests at regular intervals. The doctors are going to be there at every minute of the day, because the people who put on this sport can't afford somebody to have sudden cardiac arrest and die doing this thing. The thing will collapse faster than the money games that just went and collapsed with that American and some Jamaicans there can't get paid. So the money thing is very attractive, but it is in the long term, it is just not worth it. And we have become world renowned because of our athletes, and I would hate to know that there are more athletes even contemplating sullying our name on the international scene, because as Maurice pointed out, when the first Jamaican signed, it was Fred Curley and those guys, they said them, but it was the Jamaican that created the headline, because everybody wants to be like a Jamaican track and field athlete. Everybody. Ghanaians come here, Trinidadians come here, everybody come here just to train, because they want to be like Jamaica. And here is some people being money dangling in front of them, and I hear this nonsense about ministries not financing them. It is
because that's
finance these people to the extent that they can earn this type of money.
Because that's what I wanted to raise also, Dr. Wright, because clearly if there is an incentive that they feel that they have to take these kinds of extreme risk, doesn't that suggest that they're just not being funded to any level that will make them comfortable, so that they don't have to risk their health with these enhanced games?
No, let me tell you something. That is the point that I find it very hard to rebut. When you're training for track and field, and Maurice Wilson is a coach, it is a full-time job. It is, you can't go to work, get lunchtime and come home at 4 o'clock and then go and train to be a world-class athlete. That don't work. It's a full-time job. And what we have got to do is to get the corporate Jamaicans to understand that when we see these people on the world stage doing well, it is a full-time job. And if we ever reach the stage where we make it worth their while, like what the big manager made, that same kind of salary, then this thing wouldn't affect us in life. But it needs not government support. Government can't do everything. It needs corporate Jamaica to get on board and to say, this is a full-time occupation in order to represent Jamaica on the world stage. And we have to treat them like they are full-time workers, going on a salary that they can relax on when it's over.
Yeah. Maurice, how do you see that? Isn't it because they're so poorly paid why we're basically forcing our athletes to take these risks? Maurice? No? We don't have Maurice?
But let me just state that I support what Dr. said.
Yes.
I think that the government did a great job when they introduced the Data Protection Act. And in that act, I think that we can now look towards image trends, for example, of athletes. So there's the opportunity to earn of almost every time that their image is used and their performances are executed, because most of our athletes are not paid properly. Most of them collect, if they're on contract, they will collect like 6 months, and if they are not doing well on the road, there's no extra earning. And so they have to plan their lives around a contract that is payable every 6 months. And this is where we will find ourselves. So if they don't have astute managers, they can be serious problems. A lot of them, they do not understand financial planning, and sometimes some of them do not appreciate getting the advice. So it is critical, as Doc said earlier, that persons understand that it's a profession. And sometimes, as one of my good friends would say, that you're chasing something that is unrealistic. So even though your performances are not there, you're still willing to make the sacrifices. And this is where we have issues, because it's very costly to train as a professional athlete. And so it is critical. It is critical that provisions are made. And as I said, the government can't do everything. The government would have been involved in the lives of these athletes from a very early age, when they would be traveling to various different meets to represent their country and so on. It is critical that the percentage that we would say qualify as elite athletes are treated accordingly. So there's a stable salary, like in other countries that can afford it. But we have to find a way to tie in the product, for example, with tourism and other areas that have been doing extremely well for our country, outside the regular norm of work.
Yeah. Maurice Wilson, Dr. Paul Wright, thank you so much for your time and your perspectives. Really appreciate it.
Always good to be with you.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and after the break, I'll take you across the world, specifically to Trinidad and Tobago.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
We need a bigger office where we can see more clients. Sounds like ambition is calling and Access Financial Services is answering. The funds are waiting.
Boss, this guy will buy one truck, you know.
I know. We need another truck. Sounds like you have a plan and Access Financial Services can help. Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services designed for women entrepreneurs to unlock the capital you need to grow and take your business beyond limits. With quick approval, flexible repayment, and low interest rates, your success is on the horizon.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
What is this Buzzy Bugs? Are you choosing? Well, final. Oh, that's okay. Okay. So my very Gen Z producer tells me that that's Daft Punk. Daft. Daft Punk around the world. Yeah, that's the segment we're in, and we're gonna go to Trinidad and Tobago, where a Zozo bid failed in the Senate. The Trinidad and Tobago government suffered a major legislative setback last week after the Senate voted down the controversial Zozo bill. Of course, Zozo, you would recall, the Zone of Special Operations, something pioneered here in Jamaica. The bill would have granted sweeping authority to the Prime Minister and National Security Council to declare high crime communities as special security zones with expanded police and military powers. The law reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development bill did not receive support from a single independent senator. It therefore failed to secure the required 3/5 majority in the upper house. The defeat means the government will not be able to implement its proposed Zozo framework, which it said was critical to sustaining gains made against criminal networks during the state of emergency. The SOE expired on January 31. To discuss further, we're being joined by the lead editor for news gathering at Guardian Media, Kijan Hayes. Good evening, Kijan.
Good evening. Thanks for having me again.
Not a problem. What's happening in the Twin Island Republic? Where are we now with this Zozo bill?
Where to begin? Well, no, but so basically it collapsed because of, well, two reasons really. The independent bench asked for some amendments to the bill. And in speaking to, I was able to interview Camilla Johnson-Smith in Panama earlier this week, or last week I should say.
Yes.
And a lot
That's
of
our foreign minister.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the amendments, as I understand it, are pillars in your legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So things like coming to Parliament every 90 days,
right.
Having a sunset clause, just to ensure that there's a lot more social aspects in the legislation as opposed to just hard policing.
Mm.
A lot of these things were what the independent bench had asked for, and the Attorney General basically said no because he was running out of time, because they wanted this done before the state of emergency expired on January 31st. And two things, so that's one thing that happened. Tap on to the fact that the Prime Minister was launching these scathing attacks against the independent bench, just saying, look, they support crime, they're not going to support this. This was before the bill even came to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
She had already started to attack them, to basically bully them into voting. And the third thing that happened, there was a police shooting, and the original claims by the police as to what happened was refuted when video evidence came out, and you realized, wait, this wasn't a shootout. This guy's hands were actually up, and they still shot him and his girlfriend.
I think I saw that on a video in a car. Was that the shooting?
Yes,
yeah.
That one. They were in a car. The car kind of crashed into a ditch.
Right.
He put his hands up, and they came out of the car, guns blazing. So all of these three things together were the perfect storm to make this bill fail.
And just to remind our listeners here who may have forgotten, because our Zozo law was passed quite a long time ago now, there's a clear hold and bill strategy that it seeks to achieve, and you're saying the independent senators in Trinidad were essentially saying we need that here as well.
Yeah, they wanted a lot more. They were looking at keep in mind, this is 100% a Jamaican idea.
Right.
And we were looking at that aspect of the legislation. And the independents were saying, but wait, Jamaica's bill has this, Jamaica's laws would have this.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we? And those are some of the issues that came up.
Let me go to the attacks from the Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, against the independent bench, because I've been struck, I have to tell you. Each time I see a tweet from her, it seems to me that the rhetoric is just escalating. And my last tweet in response to one of her posts was that it seemed very Trump-coded. she directly attacked the opposition as being supporting, I think she said, mafia crime bosses.
Mafia crime,
right.
narco-terrorists, and drug dealing.
How is that playing with the population? Because I can't recall another Caribbean leader, sort of, certainly in my lifetime, being that toxic and just caustic in responding to an opposition vote.
It's new for us as well. We even Kamala of 2010 to 2015 was not like this. You know, she was pushing this image of, you know, loving mother, grandmother, mother of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it herself in her very first press conference. You know, I was too nice before, so this is now Kamala 2.0, and we're seeing that. But Trump rhetoric has been around since the 2020 election, where she went everything from make Trinidad great again to sunlight kill COVID. She's been Trump coded for well over 5 years now.
And how is the population receiving that?
Bit by bit, I think we are just as wary as anybody else, but even her supporters will still go down the road of, yeah, this is great, this is all of the other things, but it's getting harder and harder to tell what is genuine support versus what is paid bloggers or bots or or fake accounts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we never really know.
Right.
But there are people who are also a little confused, but now you start to see like the rhetoric of they're no longer called independent senators, they're calling them the president's senators.
And the president,
stuff like that is starting to pick up.
And the president, of course, Christine Kangaloo, was a former member of the opposition PNM, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I saw another accusation from your prime minister, essentially saying that I think it was two, she said, of the independent senators sought some kind of kickback?
Some sort of favor.
That's it, yes.
Sort of favor in response to that.
Has she named them?
Has not named. No, she has not. And I don't think she will. She has not named them. She hasn't carried it to the police. Former Prime Minister Stuart Young said, well, the Constitution requires you, if you have any sort of information like that, to even take it to the president herself.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, these senators serve at the pleasure of the president. So at any point in time, if she had this information, she could tell the president, and the president could revoke their appointment immediately.
And at a minimum standard, that would constitute misbehavior, surely.
For sure. Asking for any kind of kickback in favor for votes, that's, again, unheard of.
Yeah.
The independent bench is designed to keep the government in check, and I think that's one of the things that the Prime Minister, she knows and is deliberately twisting. Mm-hmm. The independent bench is designed to just say, listen, if this is a little too dangerous, we may not be able to support it along those lines, because other than that, you just vote on partisan lines.
Right.
That's the point of the independent bench.
So now that the Zozo bill has failed, the state of emergency expired on January 31. Where does that leave the government's crime-fighting strategy now?
Well, the Prime Minister has already said in one of her tweets that if the crime situation gets out of hand again, she has no problem calling another state of emergency. The problem with that is she herself has always said that state of emergency is not a crime-fighting tool. Our Constitution requires the state of emergency to be called in the event of a direct threat. So unless they find a way to prove that there is one particular threat large enough or dangerous enough to warrant a state of emergency, it'll be hard for her to convince, anybody of a need for a state of emergency. At that point, it just becomes your only tool in the fight against crime.
Finally, Kijan, I gathered that the CARICOM chair is scheduled to meet with Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. Has that happened yet?
He met with her on Friday, yes. It was a very quick meeting. He came and the usual platitudes of we are all families fight, we're all good, the relationship is strong, Trinidad is not leaving CARICOM, the usual platitudes that come out of meetings like that. What we don't know is if the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, will actually attend the meeting next month.
Of the heads of government?
Yes.
All right, because she certainly didn't come to Jamaica in July when our Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, held the chair. We'll continue to watch these developments out of your country. Thank you so much, Keyshawn. Really appreciate your time as always.
No problem.
All right. Keyshawn Haynes there is the lead editor for News Gathering at Guardian Media. All right. I'm going to take my leave of you now. That's been Nationwide at 5. Thank you so much to our producer, Dana Davey. Technical operator is the man behind the controls, Bugs. And at 7, just 3 minutes from now, Mahiri and Shaloy will take you inside the comments section. I'm Ricardo Brooks. Good evening.
Around the world, 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 around the world.